In January of 1999, Warner Bros. Animation debuted a new futuristic take on the Caped Crusader called Batman Beyond, or Batman of the Future if you live outside the United States.
The series was created by the same creative team behind the acclaimed Batman and Superman animated series and took place in the year 2039. The show revolved a young man named Terry McGinnis who assumed the mantle of Batman from a retired Bruce Wayne. McGinnis used an enhanced batsuit which had the ability to fly, cloak, and had a wireless network that connected him to Wayne, who monitored the young man. McGinnis also took on futuristic versions of longtime Batman foes. Most noteworthy were a gang called the Jokers and another group of humans who had animal DNA spliced into their genetic code called, well, splicers. And they shared similarities with a longtime Batman foe, Man-Bat.
In Season 3 of Batman Beyond, Terry McGinnis would join forces with a new incarnation of the Justice League. This league was still led by an aged Superman and featured new takes on previous League members.
Other League members included Aquagirl, the daughter of Aquaman, Cairo, an 8-year-old Buddhist who assumed the new mantle of Green Lantern, Warhawk, a new take on Hawkman, Micron, a new incarnation of the Atom, and Big Barda of the New Gods.
We'll touch a little bit more on Warhawk and Big Barda later on. But to the episodes themselves, well, they actually turned out to be a proving ground for an ongoing Justice League animated series that debuted in 2002. As for Batman Beyond, well, the show did have something of a cult following, though there were a few detractors, mainly people who complained that Batman was just turned into Spider-Man. But the characters proved popular enough that Terry McGinnis would appear in both Justice League and another DC animated series, Static Shock.
Now, obviously, this show is normally about comics, and yes, there have been a few attempts at a Batman Beyond comic book, but they never really seem to take.
However, in 2013, DC would try once more to do a Batman Beyond comic. However, this time they put it out in a unique format. This would be a digital exclusive comic, with new titles debuting online. And the series did prove popular enough that it spawned a couple spin-off books, namely a Superman Beyond and a Justice League Beyond comic.
It should be noted that each part of a story arc that came out with these digital exclusive titles were called chapters instead of issues.
And today we'll be looking at the first 6 chapters of Justice League Beyond.
It's another bustling day in Neo-Gotham as the news is dominated by the outbreak of a new street version of the genetic splicing technology. This is seen by the rival gang of the Jokers as an incursion on their turf. They wind up confronting a group of splicers who call themselves the Animal Kingdom.
Okay, I should point out here that this incarnation of the Jokers debuted in the movie Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker. And the group consists of people named Ghoul, Wolf, Chucko, and Double Debbie, the last of which is actually the granddaughter of longtime Joker partner Harley Quinn.
The attempted brawl is interrupted by the Justice League. The gangs form an uneasy truce and begin attacking the League. While Warhawk and Barda hold their own on the ground, Chucko takes aim at the Green Lantern. Batman swoops in to bail Cairo out, only to be jumped by the Debbies. Terry manages to take the twins down and is contacted by Bruce. A group of giant mechs called golems are attacking the Hamilton High. This is where Terry's girlfriend goes to school. Terry's concerned about leaving the League. However, Commissioner Gordon and the Gotham Police arrive to round up the two gangs.
Yeah, in this future, Barbara Gordon is Gotham City Police Commissioner, and she was never paralyzed. That I know of.
Terry thanks Barbara and races off to help Dana and the others. Sometime later, at the Justice League headquarters known as the Watchtower in Metropolis, Superman calls an emergency meeting. He asks Terry what he knows about a group named Cobra.
Cobra is the name of a sneak-worshipping terrorist cult, though it is also occasionally used to name the leader of said cult. And they worship a being called the Kali Yuga and seek a means to return the creature back to Earth.
Superman had been using the Justice League satellite technology to track Cobra's activities. They had been going on several relic hunting missions. In an attempt to gain more information, Superman dispatched Micron to observe the terrorist organization. However, new footage appeared of Cobra members raiding a research facility. One of the members is revealed to be Micron. Barda is in disbelief over Micron's apparent betrayal of the League, but Superman points out that this had happened before. He relates a time that he had been brainwashed by the tyrannical dark side of Apocalypse, and another time where the League members had fallen under control of the star creature Starro.
Yes, I am aware that these adventures that Superman is talking about took place on the Superman animated series and Batman Beyond, respectively.
Superman then informs the League the facility that Micron and Cobra had raided was actually property of the Cadmus organization.
Cadmus is the name of a scientific organization that is sometimes allied with Lex Luthor. They conduct several genetic experiments. Most notably, they managed to merge both Luthor's and Superman's DNA together to create Connor Kent, the new Superboy.
The League travels to the location of the Cadmus facility. Not too long after entering, they get attacked by a group of security mechs. Cairo manages to make quick work of the robots. The group then enters a room containing several suspended animation tubes, all of which appear to contain failed clones of Superman. It's then that Micron pops up, and despite pleas from Barda, he knocks over several small tubes as he flees. It turns out that the tubes contain variations of longtime Superman foe, Parasite.
The villain Parasite was created when a vat of toxic waste spilled onto a janitor employed at Star Labs. Parasite has the ability to absorb energy from any living being it touches, and whenever it absorbs Superman's energy, it also absorbs his superpowers for a limited time.
Cairo desperately tries to contain the parasites as Micron makes his way into a room and, using his size-shifting powers, tries to work his way through the security grid towards the lone object in the room. Batman tries to catch Micron, but the former Leaguer trips the alarm and escapes with the object. It's then that the facility explodes. Superman, Warhawk, Cairo, and Barda escape from the explosion relatively unharmed and begin looking for Batman. But there's no trace of Terry anywhere, not even a body. Meanwhile, Micron returns to the Cobra base with the item he stole from Cadmus. He then leaves the device with two Cobra generals who then exit the room. It's then that Batman decloaks. It turns out he had followed Micron via his suit's stealth technology. Terry begins hacking into the Cobra computer and opens the door to a chamber behind him. The chamber contains a prisoner who warns Batman about someone coming up from behind. The attacker turns out to be Micron, who has grown and began smacking Terry around. Batman is tossed into the computer, which frees the prisoner in the process. Micron shrinks down and resumes attacking Batman. However, Terry activates his suit's security measures and shocks Micron. Terry then takes the unconscious Micron and puts him in his pocket. He then takes the prisoner and leaves. Back at the Watchtower, the League continues its search for Batman, using the satellites to try to locate him, when Terry arrives with the prisoner, Amanda Waller.
I already covered much of Amanda Waller's backstory in my review of the DC comic The Movement, and really there's not much change from this to that, except for one thing, and we'll touch on that in just a bit.
Back at the Cobra stronghold, the group's queen is informed of Micron and Waller's abduction, and she receives the device. Returning to the Watchtower, the League sets about trying to deprogram Micron as Waller talks with Superman. Waller explains that she's known the League members for quite some time, especially Terry. But that's going to have to be a story for a later time.
Okay, in an episode of the animated series Justice League Unlimited titled Epilogue, Terry McGinnis found out that Bruce Wayne was his genetic father, and this caused a rift between the two as Terry felt that Bruce had basically been manipulating his whole life. It was eventually revealed that Amanda Waller was actually behind everything, though. She had used DNA splicing technology to rewrite the DNA of Terry's father. The way she had accomplished this was Terry's parents were having trouble conceiving a child and so visited a Cadmus fertility clinic.
Waller goes on to explain that she was the reason for the Cobra attack on Cadmus. Cobra abducted her and began brainwashing her for further information on two things: the book needed to resurrect the Kali Yuga, and a transportation device. Micron had stumbled onto the interrogation and was captured. Waller then explains Cobra's full plan is to bring forth the Serpent God and use the device to open gateways throughout not only this universe, but all universes. Cobra is in possession of a mother box.
Okay, mother boxes are devices that open up special portals called boom tubes, and depending on the device's settings, the person or persons who are traveling through the boom tubes can go either anywhere in the known universe or to any other universe.
Waller then points out that the attacks have already begun. Cobra has attacked several parallel Earths, and now they plan to move on to the planet of New Genesis.
Okay, now we're going to touch on our last two Leaguers here. First off, there's Warhawk. Warhawk is the son of the Thanagarian Shayera Hall, who is Hawkgirl, and the Green Lantern John Stewart. They were a couple on the Justice League animated series. And now Big Barda. And to explain Big Barda, I'm going to have to kind of explain her whole backstory and the race of her people who are known as the New Gods. And I know the New Gods have a big following, and I know this is a real bare bones origin for the New Gods, but trust me, I have later stories in the pipeline. We will cover the New Gods more in depth then.
The story began with a planet that got split into two different worlds. One world, New Genesis, is ruled by a kind individual named Highfather and is a utopia. The other world, Apocalypse, is ruled by a tyrant named Darkseid, and it's a living hell. The planets waged a centuries-long war until a ceasefire was called. As part of the agreement, Highfather and Darkseid exchanged newborn sons. Darkseid's son Orion was raised on New Genesis by Highfather. Highfather's son Scott was raised on Apocalypse. Barda actually lived on Apocalypse as one of Darkseid's elite commando squad known as the Female Furies. That is, until she met Scott and fell in love with him. The two managed to flee to Earth, where Scott became the escapist hero, Mr. Miracle.
Like I said, we'll get more into the New Gods in later episodes. Now, back to the story.
Barda states the League needs to get to New Genesis. Unfortunately, the League needs a mother box. However, Batman knows where he can get one. It turns out that Bruce Wayne is in possession of the only other mother box on the planet Earth. Terry and Superman manage to talk Bruce into allowing the League to use the device. Bruce relents only if Terry basically leaves the League and returns to Earth if things get bad. Terry and Superman then return to the Watchtower and the League departs for New Genesis. They arrive too late, though, and the planet is destroyed. It's then that they bump into Orion, who explains what happened. The Kali Yuga arrived on New Genesis without warning. Barda's husband Scott led the first charge, only to be swallowed by the creature. The Kali Yuga then made its way through the rest of New Genesis with ease. Eventually, Highfather humbled himself and struck a deal with Darkseid. The two began working on a plan to unite the two worlds. Unfortunately, it proved to be too little too late, and Darkseid's forces were also overwhelmed. Orion explains that the remaining forces have gathered on Apocalypse and offers to transport the League there. Upon arrival, they are brought before a being they believe to be Darkseid. However, it's actually not Darkseid. In fact, Darkseid had been with them the whole time. It was not Orion that they had been talking to.
And that concludes the first 6 chapters of Justice League Beyond. And I think I owe you a bit of an explanation here. See, I kind of thought the first 6 chapters were a complete story. That's because when I looked at the summary for issue 7 on Comixology, it seemed to be a new story arc where they would delve into the backstories of Cairo, Big Barda, Warhawk, and Aquagirl. And I didn't want to include them because I just already touched on all their backstories. Also, for some reason, the only collected edition listed on Comixology started at issue 17, and I wanted to start at the beginning of the series. Note, I'm not really holding this against the book itself, just the people who distributed it or wrote the summaries for the issues. As for the book itself, well, there's quite a bit going for it. It's very well written with a very interesting story. I think it really does feel like a continuation of Batman Beyond. And it's very well paced. However, there are a couple drawbacks. Namely, I think the artwork is just kind of boring. I was expecting something more along the lines of Bruce Timm's artwork from the animated series. Also, while I did like the pacing, it did sometimes read a little too fast sometimes. Almost as if the summary of pages, which were supposed to be 22, as Comixology claimed, was not really the case. But that last thing's kind of a nitpick. I am going to give Justice League Beyond a B. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.